Those who had once been the top scorer of their province in the college entrance exam all knew this. The scores of screened candidates in the Gaokao were always hidden. The system would only display a score of 0. So, on the day the scores came out, when my childhood sweetheart Willow learned that I had scored 0 points, she was overjoyed. At first, I thought she was happy for me. Who would have thought that the very next second, she turned around and went to find her father, the director of the admissions office, and secretly transferred my score to the school bully she had a crush on. Yet while the two of them waved their Tsinghua University admission letter in front of me with smug looks on their faces, and even planned to hold a citywide live-streamed celebration banquet, I almost burst out laughing like a pig. No, seriously, I really did score 0 points, because half a year ago, I had already been recommended for admission and never even took the Gaokao in the first place. So whose score exactly did you idiots steal from that poor unlucky bastard? Chapter 1, June 23, 2 p.m. The city's college entrance exam score system had just gone live when my phone got carpet-bombed by voice messages from Willow on WeChat. "George, did your score come out yet? How much did you get?" Her voice was so sweet it could melt bones. But even through the screen I could smell the pretentious coquette energy dripping from every word. Leaning back in my gaming chair, I took a huge gulp of ice-cold Coke and casually pressed the voice reply button. "Haven't checked. Probably got a 0. I wasn't being humble. Half a year ago, I had already been admitted early into Tsinghua University's Yao class after winning a gold medal in the National Olympiad in Informatics competition. Yao class note, Tsinghua Academy Computer Science Experimental Program. During the actual college entrance exam days, I was lying at home under the air conditioner grinding Elden Ring. I didn't even know which direction the exam hall gate opened from. If that doesn't deserve a 0, what does? The other side went completely silent for a full 3 minutes. Then Willow sent a 60-second voice message. The overwhelming joy she was trying to suppress was practically overflowing through the speaker. "Oh, George, don't be too upset. Even good students can mess up the college entrance exam sometimes. If you really end up with nowhere to study, I can ask my dad to arrange a community college for you." I rolled my eyes, flipped my phone face down onto the desk, and continued staring at the code on my computer screen. The amount of water in this woman's brain could probably feed an entire Pacific Ocean's worth of ribbon fish. 2 days later, I was heading downstairs with a popsicle in my mouth to throw out the trash when I ran straight into Willow walking into our neighborhood arm-in-arm with a guy. The dude was wearing a shiny black suit, his hair slicked down with enough pomade to reflect sunlight, and he was holding a giant red EMS delivery envelope. Makoto, our school's infamous delinquent king, the guy who permanently occupied last place in the grade rankings. His favorite hobby was intentionally smashing basketballs into girls' skirts during PE. Well, isn't this our class genius George? Makoto spotted the black trash bag in my hand instantly. The grin on his face stretched nearly to his ears. "What's up? Failed the college entrance exam and already practicing for your future career as a trash picker?" Willow covered her mouth and giggled, practically melting into Makoto's arms. "Makoto, don't say that. George already feels terrible after getting a 0. I stopped walking, tossed the trash bag onto the ground, and raised an eyebrow at them. "You need something?" Makoto waved the big red envelope in his hand. Printed across it in shiny gold letters were the words, "Tsinghua University." "No big deal," he said smugly. "I just got my Tsinghua admission letter today, so I thought I'd come share the good news with you." His chin was tilted so high it was practically touching the ceiling. Nostrils pointed directly at me. "You used to mock me for being an uneducated loser, but now look at you. Which one of us is the real trash?" I froze, my eyes locked onto the envelope. Tsinghua University, Makoto, with the IQ of someone who's misspelled abandoned for 3 straight years. He got into Tsinghua. Since when does Tsinghua judge applicants by skin thickness instead of grades? No way. Absolutely no way, I blurted out. Willow's expression darkened instantly. She stepped in front of Makoto protectively and shouted in a shrill voice, "George, what do you mean by that? Just because you got a 0 doesn't mean you can't stand seeing other people succeed. Let me tell you something, Makoto scored 749 points this time. He's the province's top science student." "How much?" I dug at my ear, seriously wondering if I was hallucinating. Chapter 2, 749 points. Willow practically shrieked, her voice so loud it startled the sparrows in the trees nearby into flight. Only 1 point away from a perfect score. Do you even know how hard our Makoto worked? He studied until 3 in the morning every single day for this exam. This is the reward he deserved. I stared at Makoto's face, the dark circles under his eyes screaming excessive partying and 0 self-control, while my brain spun at full speed. Willow Lu's father was Diego Lu, director of the city's Education Bureau admissions office. I casually joked that I probably scored 0, and Willow immediately ran to tell her dad. Right after that, Makoto, the guy who'd spent years turning in blank papers, somehow scored 749 points and even got a Tsinghua admission letter. An absolutely insane theory began forming in my mind. Holy shit. Don't tell me Diego used his internal access to swap my score with Makoto's. He thought I scored 749, so he stole that score for Makoto and dumped Makoto's 0 onto me instead. But I swallowed hard and looked at the smug couple in front of me, the corners of my mouth twitching uncontrollably. I never even took the exam. So whose score did these idiots actually steal? What? Cat got your tongue from jealousy? Makoto smirked when he saw me standing there silently. Assuming I'd been crushed emotionally, he reached out and patted my shoulder with a patronizing grin. Since we were classmates and all, I'll let you work at my graduation banquet. You can carry dishes at the entrance. I'll even pay you 200 a day. I wanted to laugh. I also wanted to knock his teeth out. My hand twitched in midair before I forcibly swallowed the words stuck in my throat. I bit down so hard on my back teeth that I nearly bruised my inner thigh from pinching myself, barely suppressing the hysterical laughter about to explode out of me. Is that so? I lowered my head, forcing my voice to sound humiliated, bitter, and unwilling to accept reality. Then, congratulations. A trace of disgust flashed through Willow's eyes when she saw my defeated expression. She grabbed Makoto's arm and turned away. Makoto, let's go. Stop wasting time on this loser. My dad's already waiting at the restaurant so we can finalize the menu for your celebration banquet. Makoto snorted, stuffed the Tsinghua admission letter back into his jacket, and swaggered off with Willow in his arms. The moment they disappeared around the corner, I finally lost it. Squatting beside the trash can, I pounded my thigh and burst into uncontrollable laughter. Ha 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 ha. 749 points. Studied until 3 every night. What the hell is this comedy? After laughing myself half to death, I sprinted upstairs, opened my computer, connected to a dark web proxy, and my fingers flew across the keyboard so fast they almost left afterimages. If Diego could access the system to alter scores, then as a future Tsinghua Yao class genius in computer science, I could obviously get in and take a look too. 3 minutes later, I bypassed the provincial education department's firewall and entered the back-end database for the college entrance exam system. I typed George Wang into the search bar and pressed enter. 2 records appeared on the screen. First entry, George Wang. Examination ID, none. Score, none. That was me. Second entry, George Wang. Examination ID, 202600608. Chinese, 150. Math, 150. Science, 300. English, 149. Total score, 749. That was the poor bastard. I clicked open the detailed profile for the second entry. My pupils contracted violently. Registered residence, Beijing. Then I saw the family background section. Several names instantly made my scalp go numb. Grandfather, Logan Wang, former military region commander-in-chief. Father, Casey Wang, current vice minister of a central government department. Mother, Jennifer Su, chairwoman of the multinational Su Consortium. Chapter 3. I sucked in a sharp breath. My hand jerked so hard the mouse nearly smashed onto the floor. Diego, of all the people you could have stolen scores from, you picked the heir of a city. This George Wang from a city, who happened to share my exact name, was obviously one of those legendary ultra-rich heirs who'd just go home and inherit a billion-dollar empire if they failed their exams. And judging from that absurd near-perfect score, this crown prince was clearly a monster-level genius too. Now, thanks to Diego, that genius's 749 points had been forcibly transplanted onto Makoto's record like some brain-dead magic trick. Meanwhile, when the real heir checked his results, he'd probably see a gigantic, flashing 0. A vivid image instantly appeared in my head. Some short-tempered young master from a city staring at the 0 on his screen before kicking the monitor into pieces on the spot. This is insane. Absolutely insane. I rubbed my hands together, a wicked grin slowly curling across my face. Since Willow and Makoto loved showing off so much, then I'd help them put on the performance of a lifetime. After all, the higher you climb, the harder you crash. I picked up my phone and called our class president, Tony. Hey, Tony. I heard Makoto scored 749. Yeah, I'm really depressed right now. Exactly, my grades were always amazing. So how could I possibly score 0? There's definitely something shady going on here. I launched into a dramatic, tearful rant over the phone. In less than half a day, a rumor exploded across the entire class group chat. The genius student George failed the college entrance exam, mentally snapped, and is accusing school bully Makoto of cheating. That evening, Willow posted an "at everyone" announcement in the class group chat. This Sunday at 12 p.m., Rose Grand Hotel will host Makoto's Tsinghua admission celebration banquet. Major local media outlets will be attending to interview the province's top science student. All classmates are welcome to come celebrate with us. At George, if you still refuse to accept reality, then come see for yourself what real talent looks like. I stared at the challenge on my screen, then lightly tapped my keyboard and replied with a single word, okay. Chapter 4. By noon on Sunday, luxury cars had already filled the entrance of Rose Grand Hotel. A massive banner over 10 meters long hung above the doors. Warm congratulations to our city's outstanding student Makoto for winning the province's top science score and achieving his dream of entering Tsinghua University. A red carpet stretched across the entrance, flanked by rows of flower stands. Reporters from several major local media outlets were crowded outside with cameras and microphones, snapping photos non-stop at Makoto and Diego, who were welcoming guests at the door. Today, Makoto was dressed in a custom-tailored suit, his hair slicked perfectly backward. On his face was the classic overbearing CEO expression, 30% mocking, 30% cold arrogance, and 40% careless superiority. Diego stood nearby with his beer belly proudly pushed out, glowing with excitement as he accepted interviews. I always knew Makoto was extraordinary, Diego declared proudly. The moment I saw him, I could tell he was destined for greatness. Being able to score 749 points is all thanks to the wise leadership of our education bureau. Wearing beach shorts and flip-flops, I casually wandered over to the gift registry table. The moment Willow saw me, she pinched her nose in disgust before speaking in a mocking tone. Well, George, you actually had the nerve to show up. Did you at least bring a gift? The minimum here is 500. I reached into my pocket, pulled out 2 crumpled bills, and slapped them onto the table. Gift money, I said seriously. 100 million. Willow glanced down. Her face instantly turned green. Lying on the table were 2 ceremonial hell bank notes worth 50 million each. The smiling face of the Jade Emperor was printed right in the center, radiating kindness directly at her. George, are you asking to die? Willow abruptly shot to her feet, grabbed the hell money, and was about to throw it right at my face. Whoa, why are you getting so worked up? I dodged backward and shouted loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. I specifically got those blessed at a temple. They're meant to help Makoto ascend to heaven as soon as possible after entering Tsinghua. The commotion immediately attracted the reporters' attention. Several cameras swung toward us at once. Seeing this, Makoto hurried over and pretended to act generous, gently stopping Willow. Willow, don't be angry, he said with fake magnanimity. George got a 0 on the exam, so he suffered a bit of a mental breakdown. As successful people, we should be more tolerant toward the weak. Then he turned toward the cameras, adjusted his tie, and smiled confidently. To all members of the media, this is one of my former classmates. Even though his grades weren't very good, I always encouraged him. Everything I've achieved today comes from my own relentless hard work and Uncle Lou's, and my teacher's guidance. Watching his smug little villain face, I barely held back my laughter before asking, Top Scholar Ito, since you work so hard, why don't you tell everyone how you managed to study 25 hours a day? Makoto froze. Clearly, his brain hadn't processed the fact that a day only had 24 hours. Still, he immediately continued talking anyway. Of course it was through perseverance. Every night, I stayed awake doing push-ups while memorizing classical Chinese texts. That's called combining physical and mental training. As for the extra hour, I consulted Einstein about physics problems in my dreams. The entire venue fell silent. The reporters stared at one another. One cameraman's hands shook so badly he almost dropped his equipment. Diego Lu's face turned black instantly. He rushed over in a panic to smooth things over. Haha, Makoto's just humorous. Very humorous. Standing behind the crowd, I held up my phone and recorded the entire scene before casually uploading it to Weibo. I had already prepared the title. Breaking, Province's top science student reveals secret study method, meets Einstein in dreams. Studies 25 hours a day. Once the banquet officially began, Makoto was seated at the main table like some ancient emperor while everyone lined up to toast him. I stuffed a piece of braised pork into my mouth and refreshed the dark web backend on my phone. The IP address belonging to the Wang family in a city had suddenly begun aggressively tracing the servers of our city's education bureau. A cold smile slowly spread across my face. So the Crown Prince finally discovered his score was stolen. The real show is about to begin. Chapter 5. At the same time, in a city, inside the Wang family estate, in front of a rosewood desk, a sharp-eyed young man with a buzz cut stared murderously at the computer screen. Right in the middle of the screen were the words, Candidate, George Wang, total score, 0, bang. The young man slammed his fist onto the solid wood desk hard enough to shake the entire room. A blue and white porcelain teacup nearby bounced half a foot into the air before crashing onto the floor and shattering into pieces. 0 points. Even if I filled out the answer sheet blindfolded with my toes, I still couldn't score a damn 0. George's face was dark with rage, veins bulging violently along his neck. The study door suddenly opened. An elderly man wearing a Zhongshan suit walked in slowly, carrying the overwhelming authority of someone long accustomed to power. What's all this shouting? The old man scolded with a frown. Have you no manners? Grandpa, look at this. George pointed at the screen, trembling with fury. My score came back as 0. Either the system's broken, or somebody tampered with it. The old man glanced at the screen once. His expression instantly darkened. A descendant of the Wang family scoring 0. Impossible. Guard. The old man's booming voice shook the room. A fully armed military officer immediately rushed in from outside. Sir, contact the Ministry of Education immediately and investigate this. I want to know exactly who tampered with the scores. You have 5 minutes. Yes, sir. 3 minutes later, the officer came sprinting back, drenched in sweat and holding an urgent fax document, reporting. Sir, we found the problem. The officer swallowed nervously before continuing. Young Master George's actual score was 749 points, the province's top science score. However, his voice began trembling. The score was reassigned in the system to another candidate named Makoto. The operation IP address traces back to the Nanchur City Education Bureau admissions office. Nanchur Education Bureau? George actually laughed from anger. The audacity. They stole my score. A terrifying cold light flashed through old Master Wang's eyes. He slowly spat out 2 words. Prepare the aircraft. Grandpa, you're going personally. Anyone who dares touch a grandson of the Wang family. The old man's voice turned icy. I'd like to see just how dark the sky over Nanchur really is. The scene returned to Rose Grand Hotel. The celebration banquet had already reached its climax. Diego's face was flushed red from drinking as he proudly dragged Makoto around, introducing him to several wealthy local businessmen. Gentlemen, this kid Makoto has an unlimited future ahead of him. Once he graduates from Tsinghua, he'll definitely enter a national research institute. Sitting quietly in the corner, I checked the video I'd uploaded to Weibo. In just 30 minutes, it had already surpassed 3 million views. The comments section had completely exploded. Studying 25 hours a day. Is this top scorer an alien? Meeting Einstein in dreams. More like meeting the god of sleep. Am I the only one who thinks this guy doesn't look very intelligent? That face scored 749. Public opinion was beginning to spiral. Holding a cup of coconut milk, I walked over to the main table and smiled pleasantly at Makoto. Top scholar Ito. The internet's saying you're a once-in-a-century genius. Everyone's really curious. How did someone who couldn't even solve a basic quadratic equation suddenly score 749 points? Could it really be thanks to Uncle Lou's excellent guidance behind the scenes? I deliberately emphasized the word guidance. Diego's expression changed instantly. Half his drunkenness disappeared on the spot. George, he barked while pointing at me furiously. Stop making sarcastic insinuations here. Makoto's score is completely legitimate. If you keep spewing nonsense, I'll have security throw you out immediately. Makoto was even more arrogant. He jumped directly onto his chair and loudly declared to every camera in the room. Makoto, stand upright and fear nothing. Real gold doesn't fear fire. Anyone who doubts my score can test me anytime. My IQ is 250, I fear absolutely nothing. Watching him pose triumphantly atop the chair, I silently took half a step backward. Brother, your IQ really is 250. 1 point higher would honestly be too generous. Chapter 6. Makoto's "My IQ is 250" declaration instantly detonated across the entire internet through the reporter's live streams. The top 3 trending searches were immediately taken over. Hashtag province top scorer claims IQ 250 hashtag. Hashtag Tsinghua genius studies 25 hours a day hashtag. Hashtag Nanchur college exam scores under suspicion hashtag. Diego finally realized just how serious things had become. Hiding inside the banquet hall restroom, he frantically made phone calls while sweating buckets. Hurry, contact the cyber administration and pull the trending topics down. I don't care how much it costs. The provincial authorities absolutely cannot notice this. I leaned against the wall outside the restroom, listening to the furious shouting inside. Then, unhurriedly, I pulled out my phone and sent an anonymous email to the Provincial Disciplinary Inspection Commission's public whistleblower mailbox. Attached were all of Diego's abnormal bank transactions from the past 3 years, along with evidence showing multiple cases of him abusing his authority to illegally manipulate student records. I'd conveniently borrowed all of it from the Education Bureau's internal network over the past few days, trying to suppress the heat, then let me pour on even more gasoline. After finishing his phone call, Diego wiped away his cold sweat and stepped out of the restroom, only to run directly into me. George, what are you doing here? He jumped like a cat whose tail had just been stepped on. I spread my hands innocently. Using the bathroom. Uncle Lou, why are you so nervous? Did you do something guilty and now you're afraid the ghosts are coming for you? Bullshit. Diego glared at me viciously through gritted teeth. Don't think I don't know you're the one stirring up trouble online. You're just a useless loser who scored 0. The rest of your life will amount to nothing but crawling around in the gutter. Tomorrow, Makoto is going to the City Education Bureau for a public test. When that happens, you'll be the one getting humiliated. My eyes lit up instantly. A public test. There's actually something this entertaining. Back in the banquet hall, Willow was holding Makoto's hand with a worried expression. Makoto, the comments online are awful. Everyone's saying you're a fake top scorer. Are you really going to be okay for tomorrow's test at the Education Bureau? Makoto snorted dismissively. What do a bunch of keyboard warriors know? As long as Uncle Lou's there, tomorrow's just a formality anyway. They'll probably toss me a few elementary school math questions and call it a day. I walked over and patted Makoto's shoulder earnestly. Makoto, the doubts online are getting too loud. If you really want to prove your Tsinghua admission letter wasn't stolen, tomorrow's test absolutely must be live streamed. I paused dramatically before continuing. Only by solving the hardest problems in front of the entire internet can you truly silence the critics. The moment I provoked him, Makoto's vanity exploded. Then live stream it. I scored 749 points, why the hell would I be afraid of people watching? Tomorrow I'll show everybody what a real genius looks like. Beside him, Willow looked so moved she was practically tearing up. Makoto, you're so amazing. Looking at this comedy duo, I almost burst out laughing right there. At that moment, my phone vibrated. An encrypted text message appeared on the screen. The Wang family's private jet from a city landed at Nanchur International Airport 10 minutes ago. Accompanying personnel include Old Master Wang and a special investigation team. I took a deep breath. My stomach churned violently from pure excitement. Dawn has arrived. The countdown begins now. Chapter 7. At 10 a.m. the next morning, inside the main auditorium of the Nanchur Education Bureau, to calm the massive online backlash, Diego had been forced to organize an unprecedented event. The top scorer public verification test. Not only were official city notaries present, but more than a dozen media outlets were live streaming the event nationwide. Within just 10 minutes of going live, the stream had already surpassed 5 million viewers. Makoto sat confidently at a desk in the center of the stage, dressed in a perfectly tailored Zhongshan suit. Meanwhile, Diego sat at the judge's table clutching a small slip of paper, his palms drenched in sweat. Originally, he had prepared an extremely easy set of middle school level questions so Makoto could casually scribble a few answers and fool everyone. But just 1 second before the test officially began, the auditorium doors suddenly opened. Several men in black suits wearing national emblems on their chests strode directly onto the stage and immediately took control of the venue. Director Liu, the lead investigator, said coldly, "We received reports suggesting a potential leak of the exam questions. To ensure fairness and transparency, the Provincial Disciplinary Commission and the Provincial Education Department have jointly replaced the test papers." He slammed a sealed document bag onto the table. Diego's face turned ghostly pale. He collapsed weakly into his chair on the spot, sitting in the front row of the audience. I happily munched popcorn while watching the chaos unfold. A last-minute test replacement. Even the gods themselves can't save him now. The exam papers were publicly unsealed and projected onto the giant screen overhead. The live stream instantly exploded. Holy shit. The very first question is the final boss problem from Tsinghua's Elite Foundation program. Isn't that physics question from the National Physics Olympiad finals? Come on then. Let's watch this 749-point genius crush these problems. Makoto stared blankly at the symbols on the screen as if they were alien hieroglyphics. The confidence on his face froze instantly. The hand holding his pen began trembling uncontrollably. Sweat dripped from his forehead onto the answer sheet. 10 minutes passed. Makoto hadn't moved at all. He hadn't even written his name. I cleared my throat, grabbed a spare microphone abandoned by one of the reporters, and switched into full sarcastic commentator mode. I said, "Dear viewers, what you're witnessing right now is top scorer Ito's self-created, meditative problem-solving method. He is currently communicating with Einstein across time and space through brainwaves. So let's not disturb him and quietly wait for the miracle to happen." The entire venue burst into laughter. The live stream's bullet comments flooded the screen even more crazily. Someone commented, "What the hell is this meditative problem-solving method? This dude obviously can't even understand the question." I'm dying laughing. Who's the guy doing commentary? He's absolutely ruthless. Makoto suddenly whipped around and glared at me with bloodshot eyes. "George, shut the hell up." He pointed furiously at the test paper. These questions are beyond the syllabus. No normal student could solve them." I covered my mouth in fake shock. "Oh, but you scored 749 points. You were literally 1 point away from perfection." I tilted my head innocently. "Shouldn't questions like these be as easy for you as 1 + 1 = 2? Then I slowly dragged out the final sentence, my gaze sharp as a blade. "Unless Your 749 points were fake. Bullshit. Makoto completely snapped. He jumped to his feet and flipped the desk over with a violent crash. I am the top scorer. I have a Tsinghua admission letter. Uncle Lu can testify for me. Instantly, every pair of eyes in the auditorium turned toward Diego, who was trembling uncontrollably at the judge's table. Terrified, Diego practically slid off his chair. No, this has nothing to do with me. I don't know anything. Just as the situation was about to spiral completely out of control, Willow suddenly rushed onto the stage, snatched the microphone, and pointed directly at me while screaming hysterically. Chapter 8. It was George. George is the one behind all of this. Willow pointed at me like a madwoman, her hair disheveled, tears and snot smeared all over her face. Actually, Makoto was the one who scored 0. George got jealous of him, so last night he secretly hacked into the Education Bureau system and swapped the scores and exam records. George is the real owner of the 749 points. He just wanted to ruin Makoto. The entire auditorium fell silent. Even the live stream comments froze for a moment. Looking at Willow's face twisted by pure panic, I almost wanted to applaud her intelligence. An utterly desperate legal idiot. To save herself, she actually managed to invent logic that violates basic human evolution. Oh, I slowly stood up and brushed popcorn crumbs off my hands. So according to you, I hacked the system and swapped my 749 points with Makoto's 0. Yes, exactly. Willow clung desperately to the story like a drowning person grabbing a life raft. You've secretly been in love with me since childhood, but I chose Makoto instead. You turned love into hatred, so you used this disgusting method to take revenge on us. Makoto immediately caught on and began cooperating. Covering his face dramatically, he pretended to look devastated. George, I treated you like a brother, and this is how you repay me. Give me back my 0 score. I shook my head and sighed. I originally wanted to refuse this circus performance, but I've decided you deserve a fatal finishing blow. Reaching into the pocket of my oversized shorts, I pulled out a wrinkled red envelope. Sorry to interrupt your touching performance. Pinching the edge of the envelope, I slowly pulled out the document inside and shoved it directly toward the nearest television camera. It was a gold-stamped admission letter. Clearly printed across the top were the words, Tsinghua University Institute for Interdisciplinary Information Sciences, Guaranteed Admission Notice. Name, George. Admission date, December 2025. The entire room gasped. Looking at Willow and Makoto's faces draining completely of color, I spoke slowly and clearly. Half a year ago, I was already guaranteed admission to Tsinghua after winning the gold medal in the National Informatics Olympiad. During the college entrance exam, I didn't even bother printing my admission ticket. I was at home playing Elden Ring. I tilted my head slightly. So tell me, Miss Lu, how exactly does someone who never even entered the exam hall score 749 points? And more importantly, how would I swap those scores with your precious top scholar Ito? Boom. Willow's legs gave out instantly. She collapsed onto the floor, pupils shaking violently as her lips trembled soundlessly. Makoto looked like he'd been struck by lightning. He stared blankly at the guaranteed admission letter in my hand while muttering to himself in disbelief. Impossible. How could a broke loser like you get guaranteed into Tsinghua? The live stream completely exploded. Holy shit. Guaranteed admission. This is an actual god descending into the mortal world. The plot twist is insane. So this guy's the real genius. Then whose score did Makoto steal? This gets scarier the more you think about it. The Education Bureau director personally stole someone's score, and stole the wrong one. At this point, Diego had completely lost his mind. He scrambled onto the stage and viciously slapped Makoto across the face. You useless piece of trash. You ruined my entire life. And just then, the tightly shut double wooden doors of the auditorium suddenly exploded with a deafening crash. Bang. The two heavy solid wood doors were kicked completely off their hinges by overwhelming force, smashing onto the floor and sending dust flying everywhere. Chapter 9. The dust slowly cleared. A squad of fully armed bodyguards in black tactical gear marched into the auditorium one after another, instantly locking down every exit. Then, a young man in a dark jacket strode in with long, aggressive steps. He carried a baseball bat over his shoulder, his entire body radiating the brutal aura of someone who'd clawed his way through blood and violence. A city's crown prince, the real top scorer, the other George Wong. Behind him followed several senior disciplinary inspection officials with icy expressions, along with a middle-aged military officer carrying general stars on his shoulders. The entire auditorium fell deathly silent. Even breathing seemed to stop. The crown prince walked onto the stage expressionlessly, his cold eyes sweeping across the collapsed Makoto and trembling Diego. His voice sounded like shards of ice. Which one of you bastards is Makoto Ito? Makoto instantly lost control of his bladder. Yellow liquid streamed down his pant legs as he stammered in terror. I am, him, bang. Without another word, the Crown Prince swung the baseball bat directly into the desk in front of Makoto. The solid wooden desk exploded into pieces instantly. Wood splinters flew everywhere, several cutting across Makoto's face. Ayaha! Makoto let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered and rolled across the floor clutching his face. You! The Crown Prince stepped on Makoto's chest and looked down at him like he was an insect. You think a piece of trash like you deserves to steal my 749 points? His eyes burned with fury. To get that top score, my grandfather locked me inside the military compound and made me finish 10,000 practice exams. I didn't even get to touch my limited edition sports car for months. And you? You just sat at home waiting for free points to fall from the sky. The more he spoke, the angrier he became. And what the hell was that crap about studying 25 hours a day, meeting Einstein in your dreams? He raised his foot and started kicking Makoto violently. I'll send your ass to meet the king of hell today. Every kick landed like a hammer. Makoto coughed up stomach acid and curled into a ball while screaming for mercy. Stop hitting me. I was wrong. I don't want the score anymore. I won't go to Tsinghua anymore. Go to Tsinghua? The Crown Prince laughed coldly. You think you deserve that? He yanked the Tsinghua admission letter straight out of Makoto's jacket and tore it into pieces right in front of everyone. Diego was completely terrified. He dropped to his knees and slammed his forehead against the floor repeatedly. Young master, please. It was a misunderstanding. I was just confused for a moment. I'll change the scores back immediately. One of the disciplinary officials behind the Crown Prince stepped forward with a sneer and flashed his credentials. Diego Lu, you are suspected of abuse of power, bribery, manipulation of college entrance exam results, and multiple other major crimes. He raised a hand coldly. You are now officially under investigation. Take him away. Two men in black immediately stepped forward and dragged Diego away like a dead dog. Seeing this, Willow completely broke down. She crawled desperately toward me, wrapped both arms around my leg, and sobbed hysterically with tears and mucus all over her face. George, please save me. We were childhood sweethearts. Please beg them for mercy for me. Okay, I know you still have feelings for me. I pulled my leg away in disgust and looked down at her coldly. You want mercy? I paused halfway through speaking, as if reconsidering. Then I crouched down and looked directly into her eyes. Willow, when you stole someone else's score, did you ever bother checking who his grandfather was? You really thought the whole world was supposed to pay for your pathetic little vanity? I slowly stood back up. Close your eyes. The next part is probably going to get loud. Chapter 10. The moment Diego was dragged away, it was as if he'd suddenly experienced one final burst of clarity before death. He twisted around violently and stared at Willow with bloodshot eyes, roaring in despair. You worthless little parasite. I spent my whole damn life taking bribes, and you ruined everything. Even if I die, I won't let you go. Those words became the final straw that crushed Willow completely. Her eyes rolled backward. She let out a strange choking sound before collapsing limply onto the floor like a pile of mud. Meanwhile, Makoto had already been beaten so badly by the Crown Prince that even his own mother probably wouldn't recognize him anymore. Curled up on the ground, he sobbed uncontrollably while muttering to himself, I'm not the top scorer. I'm trash, please stop hitting me. The Crown Prince casually wiped the dirt from his shoe against Makoto's clothes before finally turning toward me. So you're the George from Nanchur with the same name as me? I nodded and waved my guaranteed admission letter slightly. Nice to meet you. Incoming freshman of Tsinghua's Yao class, George Wang. The moment he saw the admission letter, the Crown Prince's eyes lit up instantly. Most of the violent aura around him disappeared on the spot. Holy shit, Yao class. He strode over excitedly and slammed a hand onto my shoulder. Bro, that's insane. I hate coding more than anything. Once we get to Tsinghua, let me copy your final assignments sometime. Alright. The slap nearly shattered my shoulder blade. I sucked in a painful breath and twitched at the corner of my mouth. You can copy them. I paused. But it'll cost you one roast duck dinner. Deal. The Crown Prince burst out laughing and immediately pulled out his phone. Come on, let's add each other on WeChat. As thanks for helping blow this whole thing up online these past few days. Tonight's on me. We're hitting the most expensive place in Nanchur. Order whatever the hell you want. The surrounding reporters completely lost their minds. Cameras flashed wildly. One was the real province top scorer backed by a city's military elite. The other was a hidden genius already guaranteed admission into Tsinghua's legendary Yao class. Two Georges stood chatting and laughing casually in the middle of the destroyed auditorium. At their feet lay the utterly disgraced Willow and the completely ruined Makoto. That very afternoon, the provincial education department issued a highest-level official notice. Makoto, due to involvement in a severe college entrance exam fraud case, had his exam results permanently revoked and was entered into the National Dishonesty Archive, resulting in a lifetime ban from all national examinations. Diego was transferred directly to judicial authorities. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered corruption and bribery involving tens of millions. The rest of his life was basically guaranteed to be spent sewing prison uniforms behind bars. As for Willow, because she was suspected of assisting in the forgery of official state documents, she was also taken away for investigation. Even if she avoided prison eventually, her reputation in Nanchur was completely destroyed. At this point, not even community colleges dared accept her anymore. That evening, I dragged my suitcase out of the neighborhood, preparing to head to Beijing early for the Yao class summer training program. Just as I reached the entrance gate, I saw Willow's mother dragging a suitcase while walking with her head lowered like a rat crossing the street. The Liu family house had already been seized by the court. They no longer even had a place to live. When she saw me, a flash of hatred appeared in her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by overwhelming fear. She lowered her head immediately and hurried away without another word. I watched her disappearing figure calmly. There wasn't even the slightest ripple in my heart. When an avalanche happens, no snowflake is truly innocent. The moment you choose to do evil, you should already be prepared for the consequences. Chapter 11. September. Beijing. The autumn air inside Tsinghua was crisp and refreshing. Golden ginkgo leaves scattered all across the campus paths. Dragging my suitcase toward the dorm building, I had barely reached downstairs when a scream like a pig being slaughtered exploded from a second-floor window. Holy shit, George, get your ass over here and save me already. Their jungler is ganking me again. I sighed, handed my suitcase to the dorm supervisor auntie, and sprinted upstairs 3 steps at a time before kicking open the door to room 204. The Crown Prince was sitting there in oversized shorts and headphones, hammering furiously at his keyboard. Yeah, I'm here. Stop screaming. I pulled out a chair, sat down skillfully, opened the computer, and logged into my account. I'll play mid lane, just don't feed. Half an hour later, the enemy crystal exploded. The Crown Prince let out a long breath of relief, ripped off his headset, and tossed me an ice-cold can of Coke. Hell yeah, had to be you, brother. I cracked the can open and took a sip casually. So, everything back in Nanchur finally settled. The Crown Prince snorted disdainfully. Yep, Diego got 15 years. As for Makoto, apparently the lifetime exam ban broke his brain. Now he wanders around the streets every day telling random people he's Tsinghua's top scorer with an IQ of 250. He paused before smirking coldly. And Willow? Heard she went south to work in some electronics factory tightening screws. A few days ago she got fired for stealing copper wiring from the factory. After listening, I merely responded with a calm, "Oh, what else could you call that? Karma." Back when they waved stolen Tsinghua admission letters in my face and acted superior, did they ever imagine things would end like this? Alright, enough talking about those disgusting people. The Crown Prince slapped my shoulder. There's a freshman welcome party tonight. Heard there are a lot of pretty senior girls. Wanna go check it out? I glanced at the email I'd just received from my advisor on the computer screen and shook my head. You go ahead. My advisor wants me to finish running the foundational logic for that AI algorithm model tonight. I sighed dramatically. If I can't finish it, I'll probably get nailed onto the Yao class wall of shame tomorrow. The Crown Prince looked at me sympathetically. TSK. The world of geniuses is beyond me. He waved lazily while heading for the door. Alright then, I'm off to have fun. Later. Watching him rush out full of energy, I smiled faintly, put my headphones back on, and rested my fingers on the keyboard once more. Outside the window, the sunset glowed crimson red while the bells of Tsinghua echoed softly through the campus. My university life had only just begun. No more ridiculous drama, no more disgusting schemes, only endless code, and an infinitely bright future ahead. As for those pathetic clowns who tried climbing upward by stepping on others, they deserved nothing more than rotting in the gutter, while staring hopelessly at the stars above.